Great. Welcome to part two. We will be doing some painting demos on the easel using some of the wipe away method painting. So this one on the bottom is the one we did last week here, or I did last week. I went ahead and during the week did a whole bunch more of them. I always enjoy experimenting and playing with that. So I tried a couple different things. Like this will actually be grasses here. So only the water is right in the very front, kind of the edges, some grasses, clearing of trees, a lot of fog. This one is, so sometimes you can see that the wipe away paintings are just kind of notes for myself. There's not a lot here. In fact, I don't think anybody would even know what they're looking at if I didn't explain it to them. So, but I know what I need to do. Here's one that I kept just really simple and just a couple values. I also had some issues with my creek. I had it actually coming way out, the grass is coming out here. So wipe that away. So, I've got no, I have to paint over this because there's some areas that are just not very nice. Whereas some of these could almost leave them as the wiping away. And then here's what we experimented with doing it with, what colors did we use? Quinacridone and ultramarine blue for this one, I think. Something like that. I actually like it a lot with the purples and stuff. I think this would be a lot of fun to come back over and paint. And maybe I should even do that one instead of this top one today, making it more colorful. Which one would you guys rather see? Purple one or the more pinky orangey one?
The one on the easel.
Okay, great. That
Yeah,
makes that easy. All right, so I'm going to start with this guy here, and we are going to be bringing in color. I'm going to keep this one pretty simple, more of a tonalist painting. And this one I will bring in a little more color and things to experiment with. So we're going to start with kind of more of a simple color palette, kind of in shades of the more yellows and golds. And I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time simply because we don't have a huge amount of time left in class today, mixing up just perfect colors. Because normally I would pre-mix all my colors and everything else, but I'm gonna go a little quicker and just play. So
is that Hansa yellow light?
That is Hansa yellow light. Very good. So yeah, for me today, I've got titanium white. I do have a tube of transparent white out, but I didn't squeeze any of them out yet. So anyways, titanium white, Hansa yellow light, Indian yellow, cadmium red light, quinacridone red, ultramarine blue, and manganese blue. And I actually did squeeze out some cobalt teal right here, but I took it away. I just thought that might be a little confusing. So this is my true split primary palette: white, 2 yellows, 2 reds, 2 blues, and I have no guest colors. I'm going to challenge myself to make the grays and everything, as opposed to using the Payne's gray or other colors that I have been using. So we'll see. Wish me luck.
Michael, this is Shelley. I will say that it was a challenge for my brain to put color on top of something that was existing that wasn't like a green. So it's a limited palette has been wonderful to learn.
Oh, good. Yeah, it is tricky. Like I'm already like apprehensive about painting on this one down here, just because I do like it and stuff. And do I introduce greens and everything into that? We'll see. I'm just going to make up a couple piles of nice kind of warmish colors, and then I'm going to let them get a little bit cooler and darker as well, but I'm going to retain a lot of the warms where the light, so the sun is, you kind of can't see in the reflection and the glare here, but see the sun down here's the highlight in the water. So I'll be using that to a degree. And then I'm going to go ahead and get towards more of some grays. Very purple, which could work, but I think I want to go grayer. I think that purple's too vibrant. It's going to clash, be very, very, very dynamic against that. So I'm just going to grab some yellow, which is the color across the color wheel from my purple, and mix that in. And I should gray that down if color theory still works this week. And I'm going to darken that. So I grab my ultramarine blue, my cadmium red, and my lemon yellow. I do have a little bit of light because I know there's not going to be any darks in this. So I don't mind it getting a little lighter. It's really blue, so I'm going to grab a little more ultramarine. Sorry, cadmium to mix with my ultramarine. And back and forth I go until I feel like I've got just a nice neutral dark. Then I can step back and say, do these colors play nicely together? Or where am I missing? Like maybe this is too big of a jump here. Let's see what happens if I mix some of these colors.
Yeah, that's
Like I
good.
get a little bit warmer. So kind of be a transition color there. All right, well, let's just start there and see how we're playing. And I will generally start with scumbling. I'm going to keep the paint kind of thin. Remember, scumbling is just putting it on without adding any medium or anything. I'm not glazing, but I'm going to be spreading it out, making this noise to make it thinner and appear more transparent a little bit. So just loading up the brush a little bit here. I'm already liking where the pink is showing through, where it gets thinner. I know it's kind of hard to see on there. Let's see if I zoom in. But I'll have to get this covered for you guys to actually be able to see it probably. I'm looking at my reference a little bit, but I'm mostly just going to make this up. Try and make something that feels nice. That pinky red is pretty rough to try to mix colors on top of and see what they're looking like until I get a lot of it covered. It gets a little bit warmer down towards the horizon. And it's going to get a little grayer towards the outside of it. Quite a bit grayer down towards the bottom. Cleaning my brush off here. I can come back into my warms a little bit. I actually think that this warm color, that yellow band, is a little too hot So instead of cooling it down on the palette, I'm just going to remove it. So I'm not wrestling with that too much. So just take my paper towel, wipe that away. So the nice thing is we can change our mind. This painting's quite dry. I'm basically just putting down colors to see how they work in different areas, if they're reading well, if they're playing nicely together. And I will do that a lot where I just kind of almost put down spot colors. You know, it'd be like putting colors on your wall, like little swatches to see if they're working. That's going to read well. Now I'm thinking of the transition where the light's kind of wrapping around and enveloping these trees because there's so much fog. So backlit fog, the light can kind of wrap around things. Love it. Almost giving a nice little hug to these trees and bushes and grasses. And I can decide how much of that underpainting do I want to actually show? How much of it do I want to just cover? How light do I want things? Because I'm coming in lightening areas. I'm going to come back in and darken some portions of that. But how much, you know, it's up to me. I don't need to stick to the reference hardly at all if I choose not to. And I'm just deciding, you know, where is it warmer? Where is it cooler? Where is it lighter? Where is it darker? Where are the edges crisper? Where are they softer? Especially in a super foggy reference like this one. I'm really looking for what is that fog doing? It's very much softening the edges of things further back because there's more and more layers of fog in between us and it. Also, that light coming through that fog from behind is doing some interesting things where it's warming up.
Michael, are you using a photo reference or are you just making this up?
I mean, I started it with a photo reference. It's on the reference photos in our
Okay.
group.
Okay.
I don't have it printed out or anything. So right now, and I know it's very yellow, my photo reference. So I'm adding pinks and purples and everything else to try to make it hopefully a little more interesting than just having it all be values, purple values. But I also want it to harmonize, I hope.
You make it look so easy.
Well, it is so easy. No, I'm just kidding.
For you.
Yeah, on my 300th, 400th time, you know, doing this, it definitely takes repetition, experimentation, good friends that you don't mind falling flat on your face in front of, people who understand that, you know, it's a challenge every time, and it's a fun challenge. And you know, the worst comes to worst, I can wipe this off and start again. That's what's so nice about this technique, because I have let that dry really quite well. I mean, might affect it some if I came back in and wiped it all away. I'd probably have a different, wouldn't be all the way back to the beginning. Yeah, and I'm just kind of putting down a color and seeing how does that work with the color that's next to it? How does that work with the color that I put down before? Am I getting too dark too fast? Am I getting too light? you know, for where I would need maybe some more darks. And it's a lot by feel, like by instinctual feel. Like, is that blue going to be too blue? It's hard to know when I've only got a little bit of it up there, but maybe. And it's funny, right over here, when I look at it on my palette, it's really purple. But when I put it on there next to all the warms, it looks nice and blue. All colors are very relative compared to what they're beside. So you just, it's frustrating and it's surprising and it's challenging, is you just never know what the colors are going to look like until you get them on there. And you don't even know what they're going to look like until you get it covered. So right now these blues look very blue, but I bet you when this painting is finished and I have more cool colors on there, they won't appear so garish, I hope.
So Michael, it looks like you are, using opaque colors there, and it's really covering your wipe away your previous
Yeah.
pictures.
That
That your
is like imagine if you weren't confident in your painting, so you drew with a pencil, or you drew with paint. It's just another way of drawing, getting down your structure for me.
okay, all right.
Yeah, that wiping away, that's why I'm saying, like, I think maybe my teaching is making them too pretty, where, like people feel like, oh, this is the end of the painting process, or in fact, it's only the beginning. It's just a faster way to
Okay,
get
gotcha.
further into it. You know what I mean? I've got a good design, I've got my values established, and then I do have some nice colors. So where they're peeking through, I might leave some of that, and it should harmonize the painting as well. So there's,
All right.
interesting. Yeah, great
That
question.
makes sense.
Good question.
Michael, did we watch you paint this base painting?
No, only the one that's underneath it. Only this one.
Okay.
No, I just kept going. You know,
Okay.
I have fun in
What's the-
class. I'm just going to keep painting. And, I won't do these wipe away paintings for a little while. And then I get back to them and I'm like, oh man, I missed you. Oh, we had so much fun together. And so then I just go do them a bunch for a while. And then I become overly reliant, or things become repetitive and I stop doing them for a while. And, on it goes. I'm always trying to keep things a little bit fresh and a little bit interesting. Okay. My wife is away on a work trip this last couple of days, so the cat he loves my wife and doesn't really care about me, so he doesn't know what to do. Can you hear him?
Yeah, I can hear him.
Yeah, she'll be home this evening.
He's going, "Did you feed me?"
Yeah, but I fed you. That's my only job as far as he's concerned.
No. My feral cat usually comes in the morning and puts her nose on the glass door here, and she wants food. But she eats mice, so that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah, this guy will eat mice during the summer and spring, but he does not want to go outside when it's cold.
Smart cat.
Spoiled, even though he's plenty thick enough. So I really, I just keep thinking fairly abstractly about what I'm putting in here, just shapes, values, colors. Kind of wish I knew a little more what was happening down here. I don't even know if I had my reference, if I'd really be able to tell. Because I think it's just not a very good quality photo. I know there's some grasses and stuff, and I'll bring some of that in. But right now I'm still just kind of figuring out the big value structures, my big shapes. And
On my screen, it looks like snow.
it does, very cool, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm wondering if I need to warm that back up. The cool thing is I could do it this way and then next week maybe come back in and glaze it because it is very cool. So I can definitely come back in and warm some of that up. And I can do it simply by just bringing colors across the top and warming it up really quickly this way. But I kind of like that. I've always enjoyed purpley grays and yellows together. But yeah, I don't want it to feel like snow, I don't think. I mean, maybe that would be nice, but that'd be a pretty big departure. So maybe I'll just infuse some warmth into some of these colors and see if I can get away with just that change. Yeah, I think that little bit of warmth is helping. So let's bring some of that down into our ground plane as well. Try not to do too much blending on my palette or on my canvas because I kind of can get into some bad habits that way. But sometimes it's really fun. There you go. See how it just turned purple? Whether or not it's still the right color or right value, maybe she's purple snow now is all I did. I'm using a really blunt object here. Can't really make nice clean shapes or anything. So I'm going to be using my brush and just a little bit, my finer brushes to come in and add some detail and structure to this here, I hope.
The reflections are beautiful. It's all beautiful, but I love the reflections.
Thank you. You're very nice. All right, try some experiment here and put some kind of darker areas into some of these trees and give them a little bit of a structure underneath and see if that's working. And then I'll come back in and we'll start to dissect some of these forms and give a little bit of so I want some trunks that they'll be there and then they'll kind of disappear. I'm just seeing what kind of structure I can put in. Then I'll use some sky holes to make it a little more organic. Got one unhappy cat here, just staring at me like you're just not doing anything. You're just looking at the wall. So yeah, I'm not exactly positive where to go right now if I start adding details if I keep working on my form. So sometimes, you know, you don't exactly know what's the best next step. So I can step back from it for a second and observe, or I can just kind of go for it and know that I probably won't get myself in too much trouble either way. If I kind of start putting in detail in my sky, or is it better to keep kind of finessing certain things in here? And so let's see what happens if I go back to my sky and get some sky holes and get some of this misty shape over here. I want to keep it misty, but not as soft. Give me 1 second, you guys. I am going to run this cat outside because he's gonna talk the whole time.
Let us see the kitty before you take him out.
Okay. It's a big
Can we
boy.
see the kitty cat before you kick him out?
Yeah, I had to go grab him.
Oh, he's cute.
He's
Hello,
on-
Catherine. Like the little white whiskers.
He
He looks a
looks
little ticked off.
He looks like Weezer on Three Southern Cats.
All right, I'm gonna run him outside really quick. Yeah, normally what he would do is go out and then want in immediately, and then want out immediately, and then about 3 or 4 times before he's finally decides which spot is right for him. But this time he has no choice, he's out. All right, trying to find a nice brush to make my next shapes here. So going back to my yellows. And I gotta just think what's going on here. My sun was right about there, which you can't really see.
What kind of brushes do you use?
Flats mostly.
Do you have a brand that you prefer?
I do have a couple brands that I really like. The main one I use is the Utrecht. I think it's the 209s. I like the flats. I like long flats if you can find them. I like the bristles to be nice and long. This one's bent, but right now I'm using a soft synthetic hybrid brush. It's very soft, but typically I like a hog's hair bristle brush. And I've been using brushes by, it's called Rhenish, RHENISH, Utrecht 201s. I've really been liking these lately. Seem like a nice tough brush for a reasonable price. So I'm going to pretend that we're seeing some kind of trees way back there, kind of hinted at through the fog, like tall trees. I'll see if that, I can get rid of that easy enough. But I'm just wanting to kind of carve out some form. You kind of see it appearing back there. But mostly what I want to do is get across to over here and start bringing in some shapes by carving away into there. not making very good gradation shifts. It should be, you know, getting cooler and stuff as it gets further away, but I'll have to adjust that.
So Michael, was this a wipe away that was started out as a pink?
Yeah, more on the peaks. Yeah,
And then the yellow sky, you've just added that over the pink.
correct. Yep. And the
Okay.
purple, everything else. Yep. This will be a good um, good one to possibly come back later and even glaze over the tops of a lot of this. Possibly, we'll see.
So was that quinacridone red and ultramarine blue and a touch of yellow in these darks?
Yes.
In the base, in the
Not
base
quinacridone,
painting?
it was cadmium red.
Cadmium red, okay.
Yeah, cadmium red and ultramarine blue, and then the cooler of the yellows, whichever you have. For me, it's the Hansa yellow light. Will make really nice darks.
What I don't get when I'm doing the wipeaways is that your trees and things have actual features and looks like there's lines in it, and mine are just blobs.
Yeah, and that's fine because you can see I can come back in afterwards and use my sky holes to de-blob them a little bit.
But do you actually paint lines there, or that's just all from the wipeaway?
I mean, the dark lines that are here,
Yeah.
I just added those just a second ago.
Okay, I thought I saw them earlier, but okay.
I don't think so. Need to go to the replay.
Yeah.
And I can just decide, you know, how much detail, how thin, how wispy, you know, do I want a lot of separation? Do I want, you know, maybe more separation? Maybe this tree just gets cut down right there and makes this one a little. So anyways, I'm just kind of slowly shaping these trees. I think they're going to be kind of important to have a contrast. Not loving exactly what I've got going on, but also not hating it. I'm going to bring some of this light down into here. As well. And maybe even a little bit here. But here. Here. Now I'm going to go ahead and grab another brush. I'm going to smooth out some of these areas because it's really kind of broken up and dabby, which is fine. You know, stylistically it could be, but I want more soft edged. Right now it's feeling quite graphic and posterized. So I'll just take that little bit of fog there, soften that out. Clean my brush, do the same thing here. So I'm just kind of hoping it appears like there's different layers of fog sitting between the different areas of vegetation and different distances. Soften the tops of those so that, again, they don't just look like hard shapes. Just quickly with my trees, the same thing a little bit, where I want it to be a little softer. I just don't want all my edges to be treated the same. This is not a right or a wrong or a good or a bad. This is merely a style and a feel thing. I just want this to feel soft with just the right amount of information and detail. You know, you may paint this exact same thing and really, you know, you could come in and make it graphic or hard or edged or whatever else you wanted to. This is Is this making sense, you guys? How I'm just kind of building up the colors and testing them and trying out different things. It did definitely went a lot grayer than I probably, or cooler, purpley or bluer than I thought was from what I mixed. And I can adjust all that. I can totally come back in either by glazing it after it's dry or by just simply just continuing to paint into it. Very different than where we started though. So what I would do, my next steps would be to kind of let this tack up a little bit. And then I can come back in because I want some grasses in my foreground here. So I can put those in. It'll be easier if it's drier, but I can do it while it's wet, you know, and I want to make sure I get some slight variations in temperature and color there. I also would want to probably reestablish maybe some darks back here, just kind of messing it up like there's grasses and things in the water. Maybe some coming, you know, quite close to us, most of them a little further away. I can do that here. And I can come back in and add, you know, little hints of texture wherever I want and think that it might use it.
Michael, do you ever use a script brush for your grasses?
Yeah, I have one somewhere. But I prefer, this is just a tall flat.
Mm-hmm.
And look how when I turn it sideways, look how thin it gets.
Oh yeah, nice.
So I can start off thick and then turn it and make it thin really easy.
Ooh.
So
Cool.
just, you know, there's a couple brushes I would just make sure I never use this to scrub with because I would destroy that ability. So there's some brushes that I really try to, you know, keep in pristine shape just for doing a few things. They don't, you know, I don't use them very often, but I could definitely kind of come through and make little bits of texture here and there with it, hint at it. So yeah, I mean, these grasses look a little weird and wonky right now, but I, you know, just keep building those up. I just want to get to the next painting as well. Any questions on this? Did that kind of make sense where we're going with this? Where I'm going?
Mhm.
My son is in the fog, so it's going to be very diluted. It's not going to be really sharp because the fog is in between us and it. Same thing with the reflection that I would put in here. And I could just kind of, yeah. I look forward to getting back into this here, probably, you know, before the day's over. I'll get back to this, but I don't want to slow us down. I want to get to the next one. So is everybody happy with where we got with this one?
I would love to see, you know, just the process of kind of how you finish it, or at least parts of how you finish it.
I mean, it's just this kind of, I just keep getting tighter and smaller. So when I say big shapes to little shapes, that's really what I mean. Like in the beginning, this painting was, you know, just 2 or 3 shapes, right? But with the with the value, the wipe away, the values. And now within each one of these shapes, because this was just a big blob of a shape, now within it, I've kind of broken it by values. I've broken it by temperatures. And I can decide, you know, is it important that we know that there's grasses in here? Or is that overkill? Would my brain know that because I've put grasses in a couple other spots? Like, how much do I need to tell you? How much is enough information? How much is too much information? And that depends on the storyteller. That depends on the story that you're trying to tell. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely just keep coming in because I like these to look like semi-transparent poplar trees almost. So I could keep coming in and adding more and more sky holes if I wanted to. Yeah, and I would like to step away from it for a little bit just to kind of see, because sometimes I change my mind. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to write an essay. This is going to be a 5-page essay, and then and then I step back and I'm like, nope, it's a 2-paragraph poem. You know what I mean? It's just less is more sometimes, and sometimes more is more. It's never a golden rule. But I could just keep coming in and just keep finessing. But I don't ever hardly start my paintings super detailed, even my really detailed paintings that, you know, because I do some of them that end up very detailed. And it's just a matter of, the details will come. I just keep working towards them. By simply just getting smaller. And right now I'm like stuck on this little brush, which can be a curse. I'm trying to figure out a way to make these trees kind of different from each other too. Like what kind of different forms can they take? I'm not sure if this tree, all of them maybe don't need to go off the top too. Maybe this tree should be shorter. I don't know.
Then will you, on those trees particularly, I'm interested in kind of just knowing how you add detail so that it doesn't just look like a bunch of leaves, but that's what I have trouble with. One of the many things I have trouble with.
No. So explain the question a little more.
Well, so you'll add in sky holes like near the tops and stuff, but then when you go back in with paint, do you add little leaves or do you not? Or
it depends. I'm not seeing much because it's in the fog, so I'm not seeing very far out there. It's pretty flat. In fact, when I look at my reference, I don't even see them in the grasses. I'm not seeing like the tops in different colors. They look very silhouetted. They're just different temperature silhouettes. So I could decide, I can always, you know, change what I'm looking at. And I can decide that, you know, I could add whatever colors I wanted and they just, you know, not be exactly what the reference is. And it's already a pretty big deviation from the reference.
Like it just the way it is.
Thanks. So yeah, let's maybe jump to the next one and we'll maybe have a little more opportunity for some detail and leaves and whatnot. I'm thinking maybe a little opening in these trees so it's not just a strong band. Might be nice. So I'm just kind of carving open some trees, using some of that lighter sky color. And I'm also thinking maybe that gives this meandering creek optically somewhere kind of to go.
It's really pretty.
But it's pretty much mostly all covered. Thank you. It's pretty much mostly all covered, you know, with at least a little bit of paint. There's definitely areas where the background is showing through more. And a lot of my kind of glowing backlit imagery I do by letting some of those reds kind of show through, especially along the periphery of things. And sometimes I would just come back in and make up that color and add it over the top. So if I wanted to make this tree feel warmer as it goes towards the light, I can. Not really easy to see those, is it? Let's see if I can do it over here. So if I wanted to pretend that part of my tree was picking up more light, more warmth, I definitely can. Are you guys able to see the warm colors that I'm putting on top now? Is that showing up on the monitor?
They
Yeah.
are.
Orangey, pinky.
Mhm.
You know, and whether that works, if it was just me, I'd be stepping back and observing, but you know, we can just play with it and see if that's working. Like the light's hitting some of these grasses, maybe these grasses. So I'm breaking up this division of space just a touch.
Now don't lend it up now.
Don't blend it out.
Don't lender it up because I'm making fun of myself.
Oh, Linda it up. I got you.
Don't lend it up with too many dots.
Exactly. It happens fast.
Yeah.
Nope. And we all can do it for sure. I mean, I probably am doing it right now, but sometimes, you know, you just don't know until you try it. And then
Would you soften those a little bit? The white,
yeah, definitely. That's kind of what I'm doing now. I was just kind of putting them down to test them, and I can come back through, especially probably the bottoms. If you do leave the tops a little sharper and then you blend the bottoms, they
Okay.
feel like they kind of disappear into the shadows a little more.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so you can decide. Anyways, having fun. I kind of like this warm, really bright yellow up here and kind of is distracting. It would probably work better if it was actually a snow scene. So I think a little more red into certain areas would read better.
You do a hand.
So it's
Michael,
yeah,
would you be glazing over this or?
if I wanted to.
Oh,
Again, usually with glazing, my goal is to not do it because it can become a bit of a crutch. So everything that I do that I find that I'm like, oh, I'll just glaze it later. You know what I mean? I'll just fix it later by glazing, or I'll just do this later and fix it. I try not to let myself do those too much because it becomes a weakness in my painting. You know what I mean? I'm basically giving myself an out. So maybe I can try to figure it out, but I know that I can do that. And I've definitely saved a lot of paintings by glazing. So it's a great tool, but I would rather not. I'd rather figure it out the hard way, kind of, or the easy way. I don't know, the more instantaneous way. Does that make sense?
With the method that you mentioned earlier for acrylics, which is the gray tones with glazing over it, glazing is the primary method, right?
It can be. What I will often do is just kind of glaze. Yeah, I mean, for me, because I'm going to end up going over it with oil paints.
Ah,
So yeah, if you want to and just make a, very monochromatic glazed picture, you can. But if you wanted to make it colorful and everything, I mean, that's the great thing about acrylics is you can just keep painting and keep painting and keep painting.
Yeah.
Just keep building it up. I mean, acrylics are just the most forgiving. They're so, I mean, I love the fact that I can get them like 3, 4, 5 layers deep immediately.
Mhm.
Within one sitting. I'm so, the painting can be thick and textural and all right, yeah, you can see I can just keep going forever. This is still super distracting to me. I keep trying to kind of fix it. So I'm just gonna wipe it away a little bit. But yeah, I will step away. I will do more grasses. Part of me wants to just take my big brush and just blend this out, soften it up a little bit, and then reshape it a little more again. But I'll wait on that for a little bit. So if it doesn't look like this when you guys see it next time, that's what happened probably. Unless you guys want to
Oh
see
my God. We want to see you do it. I do want to see you
All
do
right.
it.
So I like it, don't love it. So I'm just going to take this big shot brush and I'm just going to even make it even blurrier, if you believe it. I'm just kind of getting into my lights. I'll do that in my lights.
Are you using a light pressure?
Yeah, it's pretty light. And now, oops, did pick up some of my darks. And it'll be fun to kind of come back in and carve into this. It's just going to have a nice soft feel to it when I get back to it. So yeah, imagine now if I kind of came back in with my warm lights and everything else and recarved into there. Look at this nice blended soft area in the fog, and then I can just kind of really start bringing out the detail where I want it.
Can you see brush strokes, Michael, or are you smoothing over all of them?
There's hardly any brush strokes left. Good question.
So it's a little more pressure than I'm thinking, maybe.
Probably a little bit more.
Hmm.
And I'm actually going to wipe away part of my sky because the sky got muddy from my grays here, and I know I'm going to come back in with my light yellows probably, or whatever color I decide. So I just want to get rid of some of that muddiness so I'm not fighting it as much. And you guys can't see it on the monitor anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. All right, cool. Okay, give me just a minute here to kind of step back and kind of figure out what I want to do here. So what colors would you guys like to see in here? What I was thinking is some burgundies and some kind of foresty greens. That's like my favorite. I mean, that's a little bit overly obvious. And maybe some grays in the sky to really make this really feel warm.
That sounds good. I
Anybody
like the
else?
foresty green.
I like that.
It's probably helpful to see you mix the greens and then place it over top of that. So I'd like to see that too.
Mhm.
In the photo reference you used, it had a blue sky. Are you gonna go back to that or are you gonna keep it?
Probably not that super vibrant blue. I don't really like that. I think maybe a bluey gray, I think will be a little nicer, especially with kind of, I don't know, would you, yeah, I don't, when I kind of look at it, I just kind of can't visualize a bright blue sky up here.
No. No blue sky.
I think it would get a little rough. So yeah, you're more than welcome, you know, especially if you have a different feel than mine does. Let's go. I'm just going to use this, some of this purple that I have here, this grayed down purple. I added a little bit of manganese to that. Let's add some white and see where we end up.
Are you painting on board or canvas?
These are all boards.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, pretty much mostly what you'll ever see me paint on anymore is boards. I'm pretty rough on them with the scrubbing and the scumbling, and then I don't have to frame them. You can ship them pretty safely.
How many layers of gesso do you put on?
3.
Okay.
And I usually put on a coat of primer before that, generally, lately.
Michael, if you're painting for a gallery, what are you painting on?
Panels mostly. My gallery's in Carmel, like canvas for some reason, but which is great because it makes it easy for me to ship them, and then they actually frame them there.
Oh, okay.
But
when you
I take them off the stretcher bars, roll them up, ship them to them, and then they re-stretch them and frame them. So it's pretty nice for me.
So when you say panel though, do you mean like the framed panel birch type things or?
Yeah. So yeah, on the back it's this, and then I put the primer over the whole thing, and then I gesso the front about 3 coats.
But for the gallery, doesn't it need to be around 2 inches thick?
Yeah, generally. So these would be more for framing. These look slim profile. Most of them are 1.5 inches thick.
Okay. Thanks.
Or 1 3/4 inches or whatever it is.
Yeah, it's just a weird measurement.
And remind us, did you say you like the Liquitex specs best?
The gesso?
Yeah.
Yeah, just it's not the student grade, but it's yeah, but I don't get the heavy body. The heavy body, I have it, but I never use it. It's too thick and too many ridges, unless you really want to play with a lot of texture underneath.
Michael, for your primer, do you use oil or acrylic primer on your panels?
It should be definitely an acrylic primer, because you're going to put an acrylic gesso over the top of that.
Oh yeah, right, okay.
But the Kills 123 or Bullseye 123 has a primer that's supposed to be good for both oils and acrylics.
Oh, okay.
So I've been using that, and it dries really nice and fast. And I've even painted directly onto that with my oils, and I've really liked the surface. I just don't know what the longevity of it is. I've seen any other artists.
Question. If you use a panel, just to clarify my thinking, you wouldn't just automatically take gesso and put it on. You have to prime the board first. Is that correct?
Up until recently, people were just basically told to put gesso right on it.
Okay.
But so I have done that for sure. But I think and basically I wanted to prime the back of it too, so there's no moisture being absorbed from the backside of the panel too. If it's, you know,
Oh, okay.
Didn't know
if they
that.
store it in the, you know, less good part of the Louvre with moisture problems, I want to make sure
I
it's still
see.
safe.
And so when you buy canvases that are already, they say triple primed or double primed, one teacher told me, don't trust them. Go ahead and put gesso on and sand it.
Yeah, I generally will. I mean, there's a lot of times I'm off to the races, right? I just paint right on it and just hope for the best. But if I have time, I prefer, I'm used to how this gesso feels. So I pretty much put it on top of everything, even
Okay.
things that are pre-gessoed, but you know, that's a matter of taste. I just like the absorbency and I'm used to it. So I'm not wrestling, you know what I mean? Painting is so hard that I try to kind of minimize.
So do
what
you
can go wrong.
roll or do you brush the gesso on?
I generally roll it.
Okay, good to
Or a
know.
lot of times I'll brush it on really quickly and then roll it.
I bought
afterwards.
some of the birch panels from US Art Supply, so I'm getting ready to prep them.
Ah, great. Yeah, I just use these little tiny foam rollers. They're cheap
Oh, yeah.
and they, you know, if you go over them and the first time you'll get a couple like little ridges and then you just really lightly go over it a couple more times, just barely touching it, and it gets really nice and smooth. And I usually go one direction and then the other direction, and then the next time I gesso it, kind of do it in, you know, you can kind of see what direction you went the time before. And yeah, it goes pretty fast. I'll do like 15, 20 panels at a time. So that way you just roll them out, then you go back to painting, let them dry for, 3 to 24 hours, and then get back and do it again. So,
And on canvas, is it just one coat of the gesso?
yeah, probably fine. If it's pre-gessoed already, yeah.
Okay, good.
And you don't even have to do it. You can just trust it. But I'm guessing you guys have all seen where there's sometimes where your paint just won't stick to an area or weird things happen. And all right, I'm still just kind of analyzing this, even though we're almost out of time, trying to think of what color. So I'm just going to start scrubbing it in because we are almost out of time. Let's just see how our color ideas work. So I'm going to go to my kind of darker area here, imagining my sky. Doesn't that look crazy? That one cool area.
Was that a Payne's gray in the dark?
No, that was that weird dark we made of the ultramarine,
Oh, okay.
cadmium red, and Hansa yellow light from before.
At the moment, it looks like it won't work, but I've learned to just wait on you and it will be beautiful.
Yeah, I know how many times you're just like, oh, he's done it this
He's
time.
learned it again. Oh no.
Yeah, and it does take a lot of, experimentation and working your way out of uncomfortable situations and realizing that sometimes you have to go through the uncomfortable situations to get to the other side. And then that's just a part of the growth of a painting. That
Michael, I remember you did the Photoshop example where you took one color and then you placed it at different spots on a painting. And depending on what it was next to, it just even looked like a completely different color. And so like right now that purpley gray looks really, really bright, but it's because it's next to that contrasting.
Yeah, you can see on a gray panel that it's almost exactly, almost matches the gray here, but over here it's blue. Isn't that wild? Yeah. That's one of the hardest and most interesting parts about painting for me is just guessing colors, because color relativity is And then you do it out plein air painting where you're painting in really strong light and everything else too. And yeah, it's amazing.
I think it's not only the growth of the painting, it's the growth of the painter.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, it comes down to trust. And there are times where I will literally be under my breath telling myself, trust the system, trust the system. Because I start panicking. It's like, oh, you're losing it, Orwick. Oh no. You know, what are you doing? This was a decent painting and now it's horrible. And then you just trust the system, trust the system. Believe in yourself. Got to fall back on all the other times you've made paintings and they've worked out. Still doesn't mean it's going to, but got to give it a chance at least.
Okay, Michael, so you're putting this on not too awfully thick, and you were telling us that we needed piles
For the next painting.
for our next
Not
project.
this week.
Not this week, next week.
That's what
Okay.
we Monet on these things.
What did you say we need?
Paint.
Paint.
Piles, piles?
Lots of paint. Piles of paint.
Like I laid out up here, like this is a lot of paint for some of you guys. Some of you guys probably lay out your paint like that. My friend Anton squeezes out half of one of these each time he paints out of each color. I don't know how much money he spends on paint, but yeah, I'm not like that. But you not using enough paint is a big weakness. I promise. It definitely stunts your growth as an artist. Just got to go, you know what? I'm worth it. My paintings are worth it. Yeah, you'll hear artists say that. Paint like you're rich. And generally what they mean is using decent supplies and then also putting out enough.
Are you going to cover all of the beautiful golden sky?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
That's the nice thing about the scumbling is I'm kind of putting a purpley reddish color on top, kind of quinacridone mixed with a little bit of the blue grays. And you can see where I leave it. You can still see some of the yellow through it with the scumbling technique.
Are you using the same brush all the time or different brushes?
So far, this has been all one brush.
Okay.
It really looks fantastic.
So already that sky, hopefully, is much more dynamic. Even though that was truly all grays, look how colorful that is. Can you imagine if I put a pure blue on there?
Yeah.
And now
Suicides.
look into this area right here for a second, and now look at that. It looks gray because it's got the blue next to it. Or if I went with the ultramarine.
Oh my God, what are you doing? Don't mess it up. Oh my.
All right, I'm going to go to the greens down here just so you can see that. So foresty greens we were saying, right? I'm going to go ahead and mix it from the start just so you can see it. So for a foresty kind of a earthy green, I want it to feel naturalistic. I love how it plays with the warm earth reds underneath. So I'm going to mix ultramarine blue because that's my blue that leans towards purple, meaning it has red in it. And I know that this green, to make it earthy, I'm going to need the reds. So let's just do it the other way. If I were making a green with my manganese hue, blue hue, and my lemon yellow, which is the way to make green. Those are the two colors that both lean towards green. I can make a fantastic green. It's just not a fantastic green for this painting because that's going to look ridiculous. It's just too much green. So what happens with a lot of students is they see green, they say green, they make green, put green on, and there's no more thought process to it. But I know that I don't want that vibrant spring green. I mean, it could work, but then everything else has to get more colorful and more interesting and more spring-like. And that's not what I'm going for in this painting. So I know that it needs to be much more earthy. So I'm going to start with my blue that leads towards purple. I'm going to start with my yellow that leads towards orange. It's going to make a horrible green, horribly beautiful, very, very dark because they're both transparent colors. Wow, that's almost darker than my black up here. Isn't that interesting? Might be able to use some of this color in that painting up above in my grasses. I'm going to bring some of this lighter yellow to lighten it. I could also use white if I wanted. So already a much more realistic grass yellow than green than this one. And then I know from all the years of study and hanging out with all you wise painters that a little bit of red into my green will even neutralize it more. I also have to think this green is going on to a red surface, so I can probably leave it pretty reddish and it will appear pretty greenish once I get it onto the painting.
Did you use the quinacridone red? Oops, let's try this.
I
again.
didn't. I used my, I could have, but I didn't. No, I used the cadmium. I do know that I need it to be somewhat opaque because I'm going to be covering some of this area. So let's just go ahead and start brushing on. Grab a chip brush here. I'm going to go to my darks first and work my way up. Wish I had my reference. Thought I saw it this morning when I was straightening stuff up. There it is. So there's our reference. Pretty big departure already. I'm going to use some of this bluey gray up here to give us a little bit of sense of depth into our shadows. Let it get a little darker down here towards the foreground. I've changed my light source, so I got to decide on that because my light source in my reference is coming from my left side. And then here I've kind of made it appear to be coming from my back here, at least for now. I could change my clouds to make them look like they're also being lit. So I think I'll do that. So like the sun is setting across here. So let me quickly just, whoops, that's a lot of dark. I'll come back in and fix these in just a second. Just so that my light now reads like it could be, in theory, coming from the left. Let's do that. So I make my clouds look like they're being lit on their left side. Shadows. So I like to paint oftentimes from dark to light as I'm building up my. There he is. Let's just see how light green does on there. I'll let some of that auburn red show through. I'm making up a lot of this light here that's not really in there just because I want to bring a little more sense of ground plane into the foreground. Now let's let some light hit it here. A little stronger. Add a little red to that. Warm it up a touch more. It's a warm light source. I know we've already gone along here by a couple minutes. So I'm just going to knock in a little bit of light into the left side of that tree, just so you can kind of see the structure that I'm thinking of. And then I'll come back in and start refining things. But by simply come in with some nice kind of orangey gold and hit the left side of the tree. I want to do the same back here on these trees, and I will, but I know that I haven't, since I've messed with all the sky, I can't do that yet until I've refined that sky. Otherwise, I'll be painting around everything. Let's get some more darks back. And bring it into the other side of the tree to add shadow. Away from the light, giving it form, I hope. So this one won't be backlit, it'll be side lit. As we've seen, probably enough backlit stuff from me. I do love my backlit scenes. But hopefully that's giving this tree a bit of a feeling of form.
Is that kind of a greeny gray dark?
Yeah, it is. Probably a little too green, but that's what I get for rushing in. Especially with how orange my light side is. Not sure if they're relating properly.
There's a lot to think about when you paint.
There sure is. But I'm enjoying the dynamicism of this. The bouncing of colors and different form. Yeah, whether or not, you know, what I will change after looking at it for a little bit, I can't be sure. But anyways, lots of ways to keep adding color and light. And see if I can go back one more spot here.
Is that white on the bushes to accent it, or did you put some yellow in there too?
All right, through here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually quite yellow and green.
Okay.
Let's zoom in and see if we can see it here.
Yeah, it still looks white on my screen, but okay.
Yeah, and maybe I just need to go back in with more, you know, Indian yellow or whatever color I want it to decide that the sunlight is. And it may just be glary because it's so wet, and that's probably the thickest paint on there now. Yeah, anyways, fun. What do you guys think of painting over the subtractive way of painting? Does that make sense to you? And you know why we don't want to make them probably too pretty, why we can kind of get in our own way. But I like it as a design, a way of figuring out my structure and my form and my value structure, my lights and my darks really quickly. You know, maybe in the future when I'm teaching it, maybe I will teach it with just like Payne's gray or, you know, just ultramarine blue or something. Because yeah, a couple of you guys really have beautiful underpaintings already. And I'm like hesitant to have you destroy them, possibly. Anyways, thoughts as we start to say goodbye here?
I had a thought. Instead of just viewing it as a subtractive method as the underpainting, I'm thinking that for acrylics, I could make an underpainting. I could just paint an underpainting with the golds and the yellows and the dark purples and let it dry for a few minutes. Basically, is all I would need.
Yeah,
and, go ahead and paint over it as if it had been a subtractive, but just I mean, but I would still benefit from like the way you just painted that sky with the gray blues over that yellow. You know, it was really beautiful. So if I did an underpainting in those yellows, It wouldn't have to be the subtractive method, right? To make.
No, you're right. And I think with acrylics, that would be the way that you would do it. Yeah, and it doesn't even need to be yellow and red and anything else. It could be whatever color. I mean, and if it's not useful to you, don't do it. It's just, you're either gonna draw it out one way or another, probably, to get your big shapes and your big forms, right? Whether that's doing an outline, whether, like a cartoon style, which a lot of artists do and they do great. It could be just a couple lines, guidelines that they put in. It's whatever is needed or helpful. The other thing is I just really enjoy doing the subtractive style. I enjoy it allows me to experiment with the design and the big structural elements really loosely and quickly, and have fun and just try to find balance and rhythm and structure, and things like that. It's interesting now, like looking up at the foggy painting on the top. You see the English garden syndrome where I started spacing all those trees out and everything else, like getting away from it. Because now I'm at my computer looking at the monitor, I can see that. But when I was standing up there, I didn't see that. So it's important to get away, take a couple minutes, get a fresh look on your paintings. So I just know I'll go up there and manipulate that and change those shapes and stuff. Because it's like a fan or a bony hand sticking up or something. Anyways, it's important. And I always want my paintings to succeed when I'm painting in front of you guys. I always want to win and make you guys proud of me. But I think it's just as important to see the struggles and to see that, even when it's just fun and I'm playing and just trying new things, it's constantly back and forth. You win for a little while, and then you kind of lose, or you learn for a little while, and then you're back at it. And so, yeah, just don't get too frustrated. If you are getting too frustrated, take a little break, go pet a cat, whatever it is, and then come back to it, because once we get frustrated, it can be really tough and really slightly demeaning. And it also can be I know once I start getting frustrated, I'll start just globbing on paint. And all of a sudden I've really ruined it. I've taken a small error and made it a big error out of frustration. So just taking a break, taking a breath, maybe even just picking up a different painting. That's why I'm usually working on multiple paintings at a time. Well, one of the many reasons. So anyways, thank you guys very much. So yeah, play with this, play with building up, see if you like some of that behind the painting from underneath, letting it show. You can see some in both of those paintings, and you can see how it kind of emits a warmth to it and a little bit of kind of an aura of glow. Next week, if you guys are all willing, I would love to use some paint and do some Monet action. Whether it's skies or those bushes, or whether we copy a Monet. But next week, come brave, because it's gonna be scary once you start piling on the paint. All right, you guys, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please, your homework
Thanks,
for this week.
Michael.
Your homework for this week is to experiment with painting over your subtractive painting. And then your other homework is to go and comment on 2 or 3 of your fellow students' paintings.
Oh, my.
Oh,
Give me good critiques, guys.
no.
I mean, be hard on me. Be hard on me. Don't be
There you
nice.
go. Yeah, just go in and write.
Mine will all be
little something.
anonymous.
There, yeah, it's all anonymous for everybody. Oh yeah, and that's your other homework. I don't care if you critique anonymously or give feedback. It could be praise, I don't care. I just want to get a little more community interaction on there. What was I just going to say? Yeah, and if you can post with your name, if you can figure that out, that would be helpful. Helpful for me when I'm reviewing your stuff. Phew,
Thanks,
that was a lot.
Michael.
Thank you guys.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Thanks.